Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. Today is the first official day of the new ban list, and so there's a lot of things that people now have to take into consideration when it comes to cards that they should be looking to pick up or offload. We had some interesting results the last couple of weekends playing under the old format still, and while there's some things that obviously won't be as strong now as they were before, there are some other things that were still able to perform under the old list that should theoretically still be even stronger now. These are key cards that we'll want to pay attention to, and things that should be verified as we get into events starting next weekend at the start of the new format. Let's get started. Alright, so kicking things off, we're looking at Vanquish Soul Raisin. So really, we're looking here at all of the Vanquish Soul cards, an archetype that just came out in Wild Survivors. Over this past weekend, the deck performed really well. I believe it even got second place at the Italian National Championships, which was really surprising. Now, of course, the event was under last format's ban list, but Vanquish Soul won't have had any hits on it under this new list. So while the decks around it all got weaker, Vanquish Soul is actually still at the same power level, so Vanquish Soul actually could be poised to be a top tier contender this upcoming format. Of course, at the same time, it could just be that the deck was brand new, and so no one really knew how to play against it, and also floodgates like Droll and Lockbird, and there can be only one, possibly put in a ton of work that could have just carried the rest of the deck. However, we don't want to count the deck out, especially when the trend with these side sets is that a lot of them get another exclusive card in an upcoming core set that makes them really strong, kind of like what we've seen happen with Pearly already, and what will happen with Rescue Ace. Now that being said, we have seen an uptick in a lot of the prices of the Vanquish Soul cards. I'm looking here at Raisin. It was a $20 card just a couple of days ago, but with the deck's surprising performance this past weekend, it's now up to $30 to $35. We will probably see some similar price jumps with cards like Stake Your Soul, Borger, and The Rock, since they are all 3-ofs for the same strategy. Of course, only time is going to tell us just how strong the deck will be. If you guys want to play the deck, I would wait a little while for the prices to settle back down before investing in a core, since even if the deck proves to be really strong, players will simply open up more sealed product, which will flood the cards back to the market and help to drive prices down overall. Next, there is one other card from Wild Survivors I want to look at, and that is Ground Zeno. This was actually one of the most hyped cards from the set to come out, and I believe that at first it was the ultra rare at the highest price point, back when players just weren't all that convinced by the Vanquish Soul cards quite yet. Ground Zeno is a great searcher for dinos, searching for a dinosaur tuner or vanilla dino from your deck, and then allowing you to pop a card from your hand. This lets you pop a baby Ceratosaurus to trigger its effect right away, which gives easy access to Soul Eating Oviraptor, and the deck just gets kind of crazy from there. Now, on release, Ground Zeno was a $20 card, however, over the last couple of days, players have gone crazy for the card and it now sits between $35 and $40 on TCG Player. However, I didn't see any dino list that did especially well over this past weekend. I'm not too sure if there's anything specific that drove this buyout, however, it is also certainly possible that players are just expecting dinos to be good next format once everything gets hit. To be fair, while everyone is on Kashtira with 3 Arise Hearts, you can't really use Baby Ceratosaurus or Miscellaneousaurus effectively, so perhaps everyone is just speculating that this will be a top tier contender going into this upcoming format after Arise Heart is banned so that you can proc their effects much more easily. At one point, there were only 6 copies of Ground Zeno available on the market, but I think that more have been listed back up now. Personally, I would wait for a few days for the quantities to stock back up before buying into these, since it's very likely to go back down now that players realize how potentially meta impactful the cards from Wild Survivors actually are, and they tear open more product. Up next, we're looking at Chaos Angel. Now, to be honest, I didn't know that this card was at this price until maybe like 10 minutes ago. I thought that this card was still at around $40 to $45. I just thought I'd check it out since I maybe want to pick up a third copy, and well, here we are. Chaos Angel is an easily accessible level 10 synchro monster. The non-tuner has to be light or dark, but then you can also use a non-tuner light or dark monster in the tuner's place as well. The card is pretty simple itself. On summon, this card banishes a card on the field, and then it gains an effect depending on the materials. So if you used a light monster, synchro monsters that you control are unaffected by activated monster effects. If you used a dark monster, then monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. And if you used both a light and a dark monster, you get both immunities. So this card is a really cool extra deck option. Basically, it's an easily accessible beater that can also provide instant spot removal. This card is an interesting extra deck option in a couple of different strategies. Dragon Link runs a lot of light and dark monsters, so they can potentially make it, especially with those Bestials being level 6s, that's really convenient. And in Labyrinth, you can use either of the level 8 monsters with Stovey Torby in the Furniture build, and that becomes a free way to banish a card off the board. You can then summon the Stovey Torby back, while also using Big Welcome to summon the level 8 back. So while Chaos Angel was expensive on release, that was to be expected. It trended downward quickly and it settled at around $40 to $45 or so, but over the last week, the card has trended upwards and is now sitting at $65. So I don't know if there's anything that happened specifically that caused this to happen. Obviously, the ban list hit a lot of the other decks, and Labyrinth was one of the few strategies that didn't really get hit at all, and they are able to use this card. Of course, we do also have to remember that Cyberstorm Access wasn't a great set in terms of value. There's a lot of cards that have fallen in price, and even a lot of the cheaper cards are down because of the most recent ban list, so it kind of makes sense that Chaos Angel goes up in its place to balance out the value for the set. Now normally, I would say that you should wait for Chaos Angel to settle back down before going ahead and picking it up. However, it is also completely possible that it becomes one of those like staple extra deck boss monsters from a core set that a lot of decks of the current format want to have access to, and so the card could potentially stay expensive throughout this upcoming format. Hey guys, before we go on, I want to remind everyone to hop over and check out MSTmerch.com. That's where you can find our MST.TV exclusive sleeves to rock at your next event. Aside from that, make sure that you guys check out our brand new Ulti Ego sleeves, which were designed by Tombox himself. I don't know about you guys, but I think these sleeves are absolutely insane. The whole Shadow Realm sort of effect is really cool, and the purples really pop out of the sleeve. These sleeves look even more amazing in person, and they will definitely make your friends jealous. Aside from that, we have two different cloth playmats up with really simple classic designs for when you're playing with your friends. Our black and white sleeves are up there as well, with those being really smooth and perfect for sleeving up your favorite decks regardless of what format you're playing. There's also NFT sleeves for stuff in your binder that is not for trade, and dividers to help you sort out your entire collection. So regardless of if you're a competitive player or just a casual collector, you're sure to find something just for you at MSTmerch.com. Moving on, the next card we have is Beyond Earth of the Yang Zing. So the unbanning of Danglong caused a couple of different cards to move in price, but one of the notable ones I want to take a look at here is Beyond. So all of the non-tuner Yang Zings have the quick synchro effect, allowing you to synchro summon on your opponent's turn, and they each grant an effect to the monster that you synchro into using this card as a material. So with Beyond, the monster that you make can't be destroyed by battle, and this is especially crazy with Danglong now being unbanned. Basically, you can use Danglong to dump a copy of Chiwen to the graveyard, which is the level 1 tuner, and then when you use 9 pillars to pop the Danglong, you can summon back Chiwen and summon Beyond out of the deck, and during your opponent's turn, use the 2 to make a Herald of the Arclight that can't be destroyed by battle. Usually, Herald of the Arclight is really weak and easy to run over, but this forces your opponent to tribute it or force you to use the negate, and all while that is happening, any monster that's sent from the hand or main deck to the graveyard is banished instead. Overall, this combo is pretty nuts, but this card is actually just a brick to actually draw, and it is just a one of if you do want to use it. However, Beyond actually only got 2 super rare printings, the original from Duelist Alliance and then the reprint in the Mega Tins. Each of these printings is quite old, so the card is going to cost you around $5 each if you do want to pick it up. If you want to play it, I mean, like, it's not a bad combo by any means, and it is just $5, but definitely do not pick up this card expecting it to jump any more than it already has, since it's part of a really specific line of play that encourages you to run too many bricks in the main board, and it's probably not going to see too much in terms of competitive success. Up next, we have Meiyo Dieback. This card is kind of an interesting one. It's technically from the Yosenju archetype. That archetype used to be a really annoying one to have to play against, but back then they didn't even run this card, and even if you tried to play Yosenjus right now, I don't think that they would use Dieback. Now, while this card is a scale, it boosts the attack power of your Yosenju monsters, kind of useless. However, this card cannot be negated. However, with its monster effects, its Pendulum Summon cannot be negated, and if this card is normal or special summoned, you can return 2 cards on the field back to the hand. So this one does confuse me a little bit. This is a level 10 monster, so I think it's a bit difficult for most decks to actually Pendulum Summon out now. However, the only thing I can think of is that someone wants to try to find some way to pendulum summon it out in either Super Heavy Samurai or Draco Slayers as a way to freely get rid of a couple of bodies on the field. I mean, I guess it's potentially interesting. I'm not really seeing this card being all that great, to be honest, and I haven't seen any successful lists that actually have run this card. However, I also think that maybe someone might have misunderstood the card. Dieback says that its pendulum summon cannot be negated, but if you pendulum summon this card with like 4 other monsters, your opponent can still use Judgment to stop the other 4 monsters from coming out. It's just the Dieback that would make its way onto the field. So yeah, I don't know too much about what happened here. Technically, the cheapest listing of the card on TCG Player for the secret rare version is $25. This card was a short print from the Secret Forces, but there hasn't been a copy moved for more than $15, and even then, it's only been a couple of copies really recently that have actually moved. If you do have this card, I guess you can try to move it if you can actually find someone who wants to pay up for it, but aside from that, I would just stay away from this card entirely. Okay, so this one's a pretty neat one. It is Ultimazulkin. This card is one that actually has had a couple of different points in its history where it's been useful. It cheats out a bunch of different level 7 or 8 Synchro Dragons from your extra deck. Usually people would go into this and bring out Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. The card hasn't seen play for quite a while, but it seems that players are thinking the card might be useful once again. I feel like there are a lot of different Synchro decks in the game, between Vanadium, Synchrons, and then Dragon Link to an extent. I think it's most likely the Synchron stuff with the new Assault Synchron coming out in Battles of Legend that will try to abuse this card. Crystal Wing being able to negate Nibiru kind of forces your opponent's hand, so maybe it will be an important step for the deck to make. Now, I want to give you guys a bit of a warning here though about the price of Ultimazulkin. Of course, we have the ultra rares that have spiked like crazy. They're around $30 to $35 now for the jump printing. However, there are actually 2 different super rare printings, one from Clash of Rebellions and one from Dimension of Chaos. Technically on TCG Player, the Dimension of Chaos one is showing very few listings and they're like $15 to $20 each, while the Clash of Rebellion super rare is only $1 or so. This is because the Docs super rare is from a special ed that only came out in Europe, while the core one is the North American version. So technically, yes, they are different printings, but it really isn't like the Dimension of Chaos one is anything that special. Since they're both just super rares from special editions, I really don't feel like I could justify paying $15 to $20 for it when you can grab a very similar copy for only $1. If you really want that specific printing, then I guess you have to suck it up and pay for it, or hopefully you have a friend from Europe that's able to get you a copy, but personally I would rather just grab the NA print at that point, or even grab a common from OTS 13 or a rare from Maximum Gold Eldorado for only $0.25. And finally, one last card for us to take a look at is Gameciel the Sea Turtle Kaiju. So I feel like ever since Kaijus came out back in 2015, they set sort of a standard for being able to get rid of boss monsters. For the most part, boss monsters don't have a way to protect themselves from Kaijus. Unless they restrict tribute or special summoning, a Kaiju can usually out all of those difficult things, and we've seen it a ton of different times throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history. In all of that time, Gameciel has remained the best option. It has the lowest attack points of all the Kaijus, making it the easiest to run over and the least threatening to give to your opponent. And even though certain other ones pop up in certain formats, because they have specific synergies with other decks, Gameciel is usually the one that will come up again and again. While we are in a format where Kaijus are still really strong, they get rid of a Rise Heart and Noir, which are 2 really big towers type of boss monsters, and they can also tribute off Appaloosa, Borreload Savage Dragon, or other monsters with negations that would be really annoying to get rid of. Because of this, despite a few different printings, Gameciels are pretty expensive. In fact, secret rares from Battles of Legend, Relentless Revenge, have now hit an all-time high of $30 each, which is really insane. I thought they were already high at $20 a couple of months ago, but now they are even higher than that. Worth noting though is that the Supers and Ultras as well, those were quite cheap when they first came out, but either of those is now up to $10 per copy. I feel like Kaijus are kind of like hand traps. You guys should probably have a set of each and stick them in your play binder, since each of them will come up again and be useful in and out of different formats. At the same time, I do think that $30 is ridiculous for a single Kaiju. I would much rather sell my secrets, take the proceeds from one of them and buy a playset of supers, and then pocket the proceeds from the other 2 to pick something else up with. Alright guys, that is all I have for today's episode. I personally am really excited to see what happens with this upcoming format. I think I'm going to be sticking with Labyrinth. I think I've found a build that I actually really like. There should even be a live duel coming up later this week between Tom and myself, so make sure that you guys stay tuned and check it out to see if I can actually hold my own against Tom or not. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch, please make sure that you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Also make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about the cards we talked about, and let me know what other cards are trending on the market currently as well. Also, if you haven't, do make sure that you hit that subscribe button and get all of the latest and greatest content from both Tombox and myself. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.